Okay, this is how I would do baby booties. There's different ways you can do it. I was just kind of playing around with the idea, and I kind of took it a little bit from my slouchy hat video. Although I'm subscribed to other YouTube channels for knitting, Goodnight Kisses and the Crochet Crowd, I try not to look at too much of how they do stuff anymore because I want to figure it out for myself. So I know, like I said, that I'm subscribed to them, but I really try to figure this stuff out on my own. They're great sites to go to if you're, they're a lot more into it than I am. I'm still kind of learning, but I'm trying to figure it out on my own because I just kind of like that. Okay, so we're going to make my way of doing baby booties. I mean, this may be something that's already out there. I was just playing around with this idea. I got some white thread, or yarn, and I'm using the little flower loom. You will also need one of the plastic needles that come with it, or any other kind of needle that you like to use probably. The hook that comes with it, crochet hook, for taking it off. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to do the Drawstring Cast On. If you've seen my other videos, you know how to do it. And leave yourself the tail. The tail's fine. You can finagle it later. You're going to put that on the end. Anchor it. You don't have to make it too tight. Then you're going to take this and you're going to do the Drawstring Cast On. We're just simply going back and forth. And then once you get back to the start, you're going to lay that string across the top so it looks like that. Looks like that. And then you're going to take your crochet hook, and wherever there's two, let's see, I want to make sure I'm sure. This is the start over here for me. So wherever there's two strands looking like on it, that's where I'm going to knit over. And this will create a drawstring closure. So it's all I'm doing is going around finding where, when I lay this across, if there's two, I knit over. Until you get back to the beginning. And then this is where you can decide how you want to do it. And then this is how it would look at the Drawstring Cast On. Now, you can choose to do a chunky braid stitch, tight knit stitch. I'm actually going to do the tight knit stitch just because I kind of like that one. It's a little more, it's less see-through-y. And these booties are going to be a little different. I mean, they're actually going to be ones that probably would come up on the baby's ankle a little bit. So if you're trying, or you'd stop it sooner than that if you want it just to be on the foot. So we're just going to wrap it as if we're normally wrapping it. I'm going to do it for the tight knit stitch. So I'm going to wrap each peg, or go around, so that I have 3 strands on it. So I'm going around the first time, I have 2 strands. Okay, and that's how many I have on. Now I'm going around it again so that I have 3 strands on every peg. Keeping an eye on the yarn that you have because you don't want it to be too tight. Okay, so you're back at the beginning. You've got 3 strands on there, and you're going to take the bottom one over the top 2. This is what they call the tight stitch. I call it tight stitch. I'm not sure that's exactly what it's called. So you're taking 1 over 2. It took me a while to figure out that this would actually work, doing the drawstring cast on. I thought I would have to do regular e-wrapping, but I would have the drawstring work, but I found this out one night that it would actually work no matter what you did. So I'm like, okay, I'll do the tight stitch because I prefer that. Because that way you only have to work with like 1 strand of yarn versus having to work with 2 if it's a thinner yarn. Do the tighter stitch, it makes it a little easier. Okay, so that's how it's going to look on me. I just went over 1 over 2, so there's still 2 strands on them. Just kind of give that a little push down and go back around it. This time you only have to go around it once because you already have 2 strands on there. And yes, I do use my chest as a shelf sometimes when I'm knitting. It works. It doesn't fall off. Okay. So again, I'm only going back around it 1 more time with the E-wrap. Because now, again, I've wrapped it enough times that there are still 3 strands. So again, go back around doing that. Now, how many times you go around will depend on how big you want this baby booty. So I'm not going to be saying go around X amount of times like I did with my fingerless gloves. Because really, you'll have to play with it and see what you want for your baby's foot. How big your baby's foot is, if you need to do it longer before we do the heel, or what. So that's why I'm not going to be saying specific rows, because it really depends on the size of foot you're doing for a baby, to me anyway. What I like about the flower loom is it does work up kind of fast. Okay. Now, because you've gone around a couple times, what you can do now is take this that's on this peg and put it through so it's on the inside of the loom. So that way you can actually, excuse me, be able to tug on that later to close off the drawstring. Again, if you've seen my other video, you know what I'm talking about. Because we'll be pulling on this string to close this off in here. But I think we have to go around a couple more times before that will happen, even though it is a small loom. Okay, so we'll go back around. And I'm sorry if I don't show everything in there, because I'm assuming you know how to E-wrap. Like I said, it's just going to be 3 strands, and you're only taking the bottom strand over the top too. And be careful if your yarn tends to split a little bit. I'm using kind of a cheap yarn that somebody got me from a garage sale. It's not that it's bad yarn, it's just that it's a little worn, but it's great for doing templates kind of thing is what I like to call them. When I'm trying to figure out an idea, I like to use kind of like the cheaper yarn before I start using my beauty yarn, I call it. And now what you're going to be able to do is every so often what you're going to be able to do is check and see if it's ready to be pulled closed. Because once it's ready to be closed, that is actually going to be what I call the toe of the shoe. Or the buoy, whatever you call it. Right, so if you're nosy and you're like, okay, have I done enough to go around? All you have to do is take that extra string and watch. We're just going to give it, I'm going to try to do your pull. And you see, it's not quite ready yet because it's not going to do what we want it to do. So we have to go around one more time. Or 2 more times. Or whatever amount of times it's going to take for it to do what we want it to do. You also need some scissors too for when you're done. So you're just going to keep going around until you get it to be able to be drawstring closed. Like I said, you can keep testing it kind of as you go around by pulling on that string. I mean, I've used the flower loom to make jewelry with a little bit. You know, simple jewelry that you probably get to kids or something. I don't make too much on this. I'm actually thinking about using this and see how it works to do a golf club cover for my husband. Because I've used the blue loom and it was too big even on the bigger golf clubs he had to use. So yeah, as you can see, I tucked it a little more just to see. It's not ready. It's still open. I mean, that's up to you. You can change the stitch. You can do a chunky braid stitch, or you can do the regular E-wrapping, whatever you want for in the middle. I mean, you may say, well, I don't really like the tight stitch. Then just do a simple E-wrapping, or do a different type of stitch, whatever stitch you want to do. This is just what I'm doing for this one. And that's what I like about loom knitting is everybody has different ways of doing, kind of have different ways of doing things, different way of teaching things. Like I'm still surprised at the reception I've got about my videos. And that's what I like, is everybody has a different teaching style, so you just got to find the teacher that works for you. I'm sure my videos don't work for everybody. Maybe I go too slow, or maybe I talk too much during them. But that's what I like, is pretty much you can find somebody on YouTube that will teach you loom knitting at a pace, or it's just somebody that you can connect with enough that you feel like, hey, I want to invite this person into my office, living room, whatever, to teach me loom knitting. And I'm really happy for anyone that's wanted me to be in, that for them. Again, you can tell, like I said, you just keep pulling on it, and you're like, okay, it's getting closer and closer. And it's doing a little different design. Like, maybe I wouldn't do this one, but with it being a little more open, it'd be great probably for more like a summer booty. I mean, you don't necessarily, but if you want to do a winter one, then you might want to change it up to doing, I think, a chunky braid stitch would be good, which is where you wrap around 4 times. So there's 4 strands, and you take the bottom 3 over the top 1. So if you decide to switch that up for in the middle, try the chunky knit stitch, and you might like that better than this one. I'm just using this one because it's a little faster to kind of do, and I just figured it would be a little more open and airy for summer babies, even though I'm actually living up in the up north where it is not summer anymore. So get a head start next year. Alright. Okay. Alright, what we're going to do, I'm basically just doing this until I get it closed off and on to the next step. And then we're going to take we'll move on to the heel because I don't want this to be too big. So we're going to do the heel kind of early on this booty because I did a practice run and I waited too long to do it, and I didn't personally like it. But again, it's up to you. And you will be, what you would want to do is if you're doing this, get a little notepad or something out and keep track of how many times you've gone around and everything so that you can make sure that when you make the second booty, that it's the same as the first. I'm not really doing that right now because this isn't one I'm going to be making booties in. And so I might change it up when I do one for a friend, so I'll keep track of it when I go to do that one. Like I said, it depends on how big the baby is. I mean, I'm thinking what we're going to do on this one would probably make it more newborn size, what I'm thinking. See if it comes out the way I want. Because this is going to be a little different than some. I mean, there's going to be a hole. And there might be other illuminators that know how to fix that hole on the loom. But I actually felt it was to my advantage. You can sew it up later. That's why we're using the needle, is to sew up this hole that you're going to see. Okay, now we're getting ready to pull one last time. And pretty much, we've almost got it closed off. So what you're going to do, take the stem, is grab your crochet hook. And you're going to want to close this off. So pull it as tight as you can so that you can't see my hand through there, right? You can't see my finger poking through. So now we want to tie this off. So you're going to take your crochet hook, just like you see me do in my drawstring video. And you're going to work from the bottom, and you're just going to want to bring that string through so that you can tie off the hole. So you're working it through. You're grabbing that string to come back through the other side. Okay. And I usually like to go back out the one more time, just kind of wrap it a couple times just to make sure. So we're going to go the opposite way, come in this way, and grab it and pull it through the back. If it wants to cooperate. It's going to be stubborn to me today. But I usually do that, and then I'll tie it off when it's on the inside. But this is just, I like to make sure the toe is going to be secured. And be careful because you don't want to tug it too much on the ones next to it. I kind of just tug a little bit. This time when we go through, you're going to tie it off on the inside. So I'm just coming through this last time to grab that string. Yeah. I didn't feel it. Okay, so now it's through. We have a teeny tiny little loop. So I'm going to pull that through. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go next to it and kind of put my crochet hook in there so that I can bring this through and kind of tie it off. So I'm just going to go next to it wherever you can kind of get your crochet hook in. Okay, wherever you can get it in. And then just bring your string over so that it comes through. Attaching it to your crochet hook. It will cooperate. Okay, and you're going to create a loop. See how we got the loop? So then what you're going to do is reach through that loop to grab your string and tie it off. Okay? Just tie it tight, and that helps tie it off. And I would do that like a couple times, just again, making sure that it is tied off. Okay. And once you get that tied off to what you want, you can go ahead right now and snip it off. And you don't need this anymore, obviously. Okay, so there, we created what's going to be the toe of the booty. Now this is what you have to decide, because we're going to be working just on one side to make the heel, so you need to figure out how big you want it to be. And I know this video is way longer than I wanted it to be. But what we're going to do now is we're still going to do the tight stitch for a little bit. We're going to do probably a couple rows, and then we'll start working into that. So that's what we're going to do now, is we'll do a couple more rows so to kind of make sure it is going to be big enough for a newborn foot. If not, all you have to do is when you're doing this, just go back through and make it a little bigger in case I messed up. Alright, and when you think of how I did the slouchy hat, because I wanted it to be poofy kind of in the back a little bit. That's kind of almost an idea we're going to use for this. Like I said, I played around with it for a while, trying not to look up online anywhere because I really want to figure it out myself. You know, and I've seen other pictures of people's booties and going, hey, how could I do that? You know, and that's one thing that's nerve-wracking is when you really want to kind of cheat and go find how to do it, and you just kind of play around with different ideas that you've already done. Okay. Well, I only did one time round. I'm going to do just a one-time round just to kind of get, because I don't want, this video is going to be way too long. Okay, so you've got it of every length you want to be. It's just starting to poke through there. Now we're going to work on the heel. Now there's two options. You got to figure out which side you want to work on. And I do. Okay, like I said, I don't think I have any stitch markers near me, but I actually do. Your best bet is to get something to use as a stitch marker. I have these little things I like to use. And what you're going to do is you're going to work on one side kind of deal first. And what we're actually going to do is we're turning this like this because I couldn't figure out which way, well, I still haven't figured out which way I want to do it. Basically, you got to figure out which way is going to work for you. But I'm going to say, okay, we're going to do half the loom. So I'm going to stick my stitch markers on each side, like here. So there'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pegs. So I want to do that so that I don't go over. And you can put these on beforehand. I just forgot to. And that's why I get these kind, because they actually come apart to go on, and then you put them back apart, or back together. Okay. Alright, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And again, you might not need 6 to do this. I'm just doing this for this practice run here. You may find that you don't want that big of a heel or something. And I'm doing this just so that I can remember. Like I said, there is going to be a hole. We're going to fix that hole when we take it off. Okay. Alright, so we got our stitch markers. I usually have different colors to show them up, but here we go. We got them right here. And we're going to kind of work in this section a little bit. To kind of make the part that'll kind of be like a heel for going up. So all you're going to do is wrap it like we've been doing. Okay, so wrap. Oops, I wrapped too far. Only wrap to the stitch markers you have. Let's go this way. So you have the 3 strands. And knit over. And this won't be like such a dominant thing. Like it should be gradual. Looking for the heel. It just matters if you do it right. Okay. Now we're going to go back to the 6th one up here again. We're going to go back to that one. Okay, so we kind of wrapped it twice. We're only working in that section. We're only working from the one to the other. But this time, instead of going all the way to the other thing, we're going to go to the one next to it. This is something I had to try figuring out. Okay. So instead of going all the way back to where my other stitch marker is this time, I'm going to stop. So the stitch marker's here. I'm going to stop one before it. And knit over. Again, Again, I'm stopping because I got one stitch marker. Oops. Right. So I got a stitch marker on this side and a stitch marker on that side. But you're stopping one before it. I don't know if you can see. I'm trying to figure out how to show you. I'm stopping one before the stitch marker that's over here. And when you go back the other way, okay, so I stopped. This is where the stitch marker was. I stopped here. Now I'm working my way back over here. I'm going to stop at this one. So I went until I went to this one over here. Okay, and now when I work my way back, I'm stopping at the one next to the stitch marker over there. Now I'm going to come back, so I'm back to the next one that's next to it. Okay, so I went till I was still next to this one, and then I'm going to go back, and I'm going to go back till I hit this one over here. So again, I'm working just on the two that's one over from where the stitch markers are. I'm not going past the stitch markers. I'm not stopping at this point. I'm stopping right before it, at the peg before it. Excuse me. Next, we're going to go, let me see. So we went to this one. Now we're going to go just to this one. So now our stitch marker's over here, but I'm only going to work till I hit this one. Okay, that stitch mark over here. I'm only going to work till this one, which is only going over 2 this time. Okay, that's all I'm working through, is those 2. And knit over. And then just work back to that same one you were just on. So you're only going to have 1 wrap this time. You're only wrapping that 1 peg because you're working your way back and forth. So now you're saying, okay, I've got this far, now what do I do? Now all we have to do is work our way back out, basically, till we get back to these 2 starting pegs. So we're starting over here, we're just going to go back to wrapping the one next to it. So it looks like that, and knit over. Then you're going to go back to the one over here, and you're going to knit over. The one next to it. I mean, you're just working your way kind of outwards now. Okay, and now I'm going to wrap 2 going this way, so that they're getting, because here's the stitch marker, I'm wrapping over to this one. Kind of working my way back and forth. And I'm working my way back over this way, so I'm going to wrap it over to that peg. So I'm doing the one that's just before this is my stitch marker, and working it to this one. And knitting over. And if this goes right, it will create a heel effect. I'm hoping. Maybe. Okay, now, excuse me, we're going to work back over till we hit the last, to where the stitch marker is, and knit over. Okay, now go back the other way and go all the way back to that stitch marker. And now, because we're back at the beginning, from where we started, we're just going to wrap the whole thing again. And see what that's doing? It's kind of creating that little dip. Now, wrap it as if you're wrapping it normally. No, wait, I missed, wait. Before you do that, sorry. I made a mistake. Okay, what you want to do is go one more time back over to that other stitch marker. I think, is that what I want to do? Yes. Okay, alright, good. Never mind, I looked at it wrong. Okay, so we're back at the beginning, which is this one. And we want to wrap all the way around it. Like we normally would. I got a little mixed up. Okay, and knit over. But there's going to be a peg you're not going to knit over. We're knitting the 3rd one, but this first one right here only had 2. Leave that alone because it does not have 3 right now. I knitted till I went from this one, I knitted over to the 2nd one. That's where I can knit until I got to here. This one only has 2 strands. Leave it alone until you go back around again, because you want it to have 3 strands. But, like I said, you left this one alone when you were knitting over because it only had 2, because you restarted wrapping over here. Now we can wrap all the pegs at once like we were normally doing. Push these down, so they're out of our way, and now wrap the whole thing. Oops, don't overwrap. I just went a little too far. So go ahead and go around it, for a little ways, and we'll come back. I'll piece this together as 2 different videos. I'm going to keep going around until I get the width that I want. So you can do that. Once you start seeing, hey, okay, I think that's long enough. Because like I said, this is what's creating kind of a pouch. So if you imagine kids' toes going in here, it should work for what we want to. Now we're just going all the way back up. So go ahead and knit for a few rows, and then I'll come back and I'll show you what to do. Okay, we're back, and as you can see, I've went a little further. You can see that it's creating that heel. That's what we're trying to get. A nice soft heel that the baby can have. And there is small holes in there, but I have a way to fix those. That's why I said don't worry about it. You can try sewing them together. But what we're going to do now is, because I like to, excuse me, when I take this off the loom, I like to work with one strand being on the loom. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to do the chunky braid stitch to kind of be the top of the sock. So this time I already have the 2 strands on there. I got to wrap this around 2 more times so that I have 4 strands on there. So go ahead and wrap it. Okay, and I'm wrapping it again. You might need to push the first strands down or just stretch out your yarn. Either way. And this will give it a little different effect at the top, so it's not all the same all the way through. But you can decide to do it that way. I just prefer, when I'm going to take this off the loom, to have it be one strand that I'm working with, especially with my crochet hook. And I lost my needle. Where'd it go? Where did my needle go? Oh, I said it. Okay, I just had the thing. Where did it go? Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, told you, I'm back. So, I've got 4 strands on there. It's actually under my computer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, this is the start of it, I'm going to take the bottom 3 strands over the top one. That's all you're going to do to go around. So grab all the bottom 3 and take them over the top. It might be a little tight because the first 2 strands were what you were working with the other stitch. So, like I said, this will create a slightly different effect. And we're just taking the bottom 3 over the top one. It'll give a little something different, especially depending on what color yarn you're using. It could be a really cool effect. Or you can cut this off, add a different color, and end it in a different color with this kind of stitch. I've got a lot of people I know having babies, so I'm thinking baby booties will probably be in my future. Okay. So push these down. I'm going to go one more time with the chunky braid stitch, and then I'm going to take this off, which is kind of big. Like I said, it looks kind of big. It probably actually fit a size bigger foot, which means if you want to make this for a newborn, you would just start the process of the heel almost soon after doing the drawstring cast on. You maybe would go around once with the normal knitting and then maybe move right into the drawstring cast on. Now, because we only have one, we're going to go around until this is wrapped 4 times again. I want to do one more chunky braid stitch before we take this off. And then I show you how I would fix the holes. And I apologize for the length of this video. I just wanted to show as much of it, like how long it could take, because pretty much I've done most of this on camera, and if you're watching and you're looking at, oh my goodness, this video is this long, you'll be able to know for yourself that, okay, it would probably take roughly that long to do. I was only off camera for a little bit to do those few rows. Like I said, I think I only did like maybe 3-4 rows while I was off camera. So it really probably is a project that you could do because A, you wouldn't be talking like me, you would just be kind of flipping through your project. So it would probably not take you that long to do 2 of them up. Just keep track of what you did so that you can make them both the same. That's always my problem. That's why I think I don't like patterns for matching things. Like my fingerless gloves, it took 3 templates to get the fingerless gloves the way I liked them, and I had to write it down. But that's okay. I like to practice. Sometimes you learn more by doing than you just figuring out. All right. And now we're going to cast it off. And I believe I did a video about how to cast off a circular loom. We're just going to do that same idea. But the one thing we do is make sure we put some chains in between. Otherwise, it's going to be way too tight when we take this off. So get yourself a crochet hook, whichever size you want to use. And, excuse me. Alright, we're going to work our way around the loom to take this off. I just remember which way I usually start. Okay, we're going to go around the end way, working our way backwards. So we're going to work from the end till we get back to the front. We'll take off the end one, because you're going to end up looping it together. Put it on your crochet hook, and give me probably, I would say, try 1 chain in between. If it doesn't come out right, then I would say do 2 in between. But it all depends on, again, the baby. What you might do is do one up. If it's not something that's going to be a surprise for somebody, take it over to their baby, stick it on their foot, and then say, okay, now I can make another one. That way you could see exactly how it might need to be for the baby. Because you want it kind of snug so they can't totally kick them off, but you don't want it too tight where it cuts off circulation. So it really depends on the kid. Because you don't want to make it too tight on a baby that might have a chunky ankle or something, or make it where it's going to fall off on a baby that's skinny. I mean, as we all know, babies come in all shapes and sizes. So all I'm doing is I'm putting it, the one off the peg on here, I'm getting ready to do my chain through. Okay. So I have that, and then all I'm doing is picking up the next peg, taking the back over the front, and I'm getting ready to do a chain. I think I messed up a little bit, but okay. So after we do the chain, we're going to pick up the next loop off the next peg, put it on there, take the back over the top, and then do a chain in between, which is just taking the string, pulling it through, and we're doing that all the way around to get back to the beginning, and it falls off the loom, and then we will make sure that it is attached or closed off all the way. Just a little hard to show sometimes. Someday I'll have a nice studio. Okay. So chain in between, we're getting close to the end here. I just didn't want to end my chest. Okay, so this is how we're getting to the end. I mean, I do most of my loom learning right in my living room. Okay, so last one. We're done with this, so we just set it aside. Pull that last one through. And then go back over here, because it's going to have a gap. So you're going to close off that gap by going back over and grabbing some of it on that side and pulling that one through. So it kind of closes off that. And then what I would do is I'd get a scissors, cut yourself some extra strand, and you're going to pull that through as well. And tie it. Now this is a little snug, so it may not work for baby. I mean, it came out a little snugger than I would have liked. Or it may not. I haven't been around a baby in a while. But see, there's a little bit of like a heel thing, and this can be made bigger if you want to do a stocking. I would definitely do it smaller. This is awful big for like a newborn, but it's worth trying. I mean, I would just start making the heel part a little earlier, but it is, it's in white, so it looks kind of plain anyway. Okay, so you got your extra thing. You want to make sure that strand isn't going to fall off, so use your crochet hook and just kind of work it through. Want to make sure that it won't come undone. Sometimes I like to give them a little tie. And you can really dress this up. I'm going to show you something I have that I've used on products before that I was thinking would work well on this. Alright, and I will fix that later. You'll have a piece that kind of sticks out when you cut it. You're just going to work it into the project, and nobody will know it's even there. Alright, so this is our booty. I know it's not the best looking booty, but it's a way to do the whole process from start to finish on the loom in one piece. And as you can tell, there's some holes on the side. They're not major, but if you wanted to, you could turn the sock inside out, kind of thing. And you could take your needle, and you could kind of just sew off that together. Or another idea that I thought would be kind of cute. I'm putting it back the right way. So you can kind of sew that closed, or really try it on the kid's foot and see what it does first. I mean, that little bit of hole isn't going to hurt the kids, and you can kind of change it up. Like I have some of this, what's it called? Lion Brand Incredible Ribbon Yarn, it's called, for knitting and crocheting. So this is really pretty. And I thought what I could do, if I wanted to, is you could almost kind of make a bow. So what I would do is I would cut a strand of this, and I would work it on one side that's already kind of knitted good. Like these are the holes. So I'm going to go over it until the part where I did good, where it doesn't look so major. And I'm going to work that yarn through. And then you're going to kind of, you want it to kind of hide what you did as a mistake. Which is on both sides. I'm just making sure I'm not grabbing this thing that pulls it off. Okay, there we go. Always better to stick your hand all the way. Alright. So what I do is I've got it like this, which doesn't look that great. I've worked it kind of through, and I'm going to tie it into a bow, and we'll see how that looks, because that might be a cute little idea to add little bows to the sides of the thing. Or if you want to make like a little flower if they're a girl, that might be cute as well. So I'm just making a little bow, because I worked my yarn in, and I'm like, okay, let's make a cute little bow. And if you look, that kind of hides the fact that we did a boo-boo. And you can do that on both sides, or you can find a different way to hide it off. I just like this ribbon yarn, so I thought it would be kind of cute. And what you could probably do is even look at where the heel is, and work your yarn back and forth to kind of create a look around that, instead of just doing a little bow. But I just thought this was kind of cute. I would definitely try on a baby's foot to see how it works, but this is the idea of the heel. I would say to definitely try different stitches to see if you like. I'm not sure how well this video came out, or if you think it's a good idea, but this is how I was doing baby booties, and I'm sure I'll find better ways later, but that's what I've got for now. Thanks, guys.